All right, everybody. Welcome to another Mortgage Coach Win by Noon Friday Mastermind. Dave Savage here to kick things off with my wingman, Todd Bookspan. What's up, Todd?
You know, not much. I don't think you've noticed it yet because I haven't packed up, but I'm ready for Star Wars today and excited to be here this morning.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Todd is taking his whole family. They have matching outfits. They have reservations, and they're seeing Star Wars tonight. So if you are in the Phoenix market, and you see the Bookspans out, take some pictures and put it on social media. I want to see what it looks like to be a Bookspan going to the Star Wars event.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. We're looking forward to. We bought these tickets a long time ago, and the fact that we didn't go to whatever the midnight showing last night just tells you I'm getting old. But nonetheless, the kids are excited, and so are we. Yeah,
isn't that funny that Todd's got some shame? The fact that he didn't go to the midnight showing, he just feels like a little bit of a wimp. That's kind of funny. So we have our wing woman and the founding leader of this group, Michele Town. What's up, Michele? It's great to have you back. It's been like 7 months, right?
It has, and I get to say my happy Friday, everybody. I've missed saying that to everybody. It's really nice to be back. I took a little hiatus to take a move, and then the market just, rumbled like all of us know, and I literally found myself not prepared and had to let go of a couple things while I got rebalanced. So happy to have you guys back in my life because you guys do balance me. This giving back is a very special part of my life, and I'm so happy to be back. So thanks for having me back, Dave.
So this is the first time you are recording live out of Colorado, right? You're about 30 miles south of Denver.
Yeah, this is my new. You can't see all the books back there, but everything's coming up, and the books are all learning books. So as I learn how to focus everything in a little bit better, but super happy. It's a warm 36 degrees out here right now. I love it.
Awesome. So guys, we also have Scott Nicholson on today's call in the leadership chair. Scott, are you here on video? I just do a little mic check to see if you're around.
Yep.
Scott.
Yep. Can you hear me?
We can. We see you. We hear you. And feel free to throw in some seller buy down ideas. I think we're going to center this call around two topics. One, bringing Michele back into the community and talking about how she's killing it. And then 5 levels of accountability. We're going to make that the topic in the second half of the call. But feel free to throw your 2 cents in and add anything along the way. Sound good, bro?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Thanks for having me in.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here. So Michele, I know I want to schedule a full 1 hour interview with you on one of our Tuesday interviews. Would you be good with, just you really made some life changes and some big things in your life? Would you be cool if we scheduled a full top producer interview with you sometime in January or February?
Yeah, would love to. Would love to share.
So let's give some cliff notes, just production wise. How is this year looking, and is there any things that you're doing different this year than you did last year, and is there anything you're planning for in 2020? Let's get an update.
So I am so happy and so proud of my team. As of today, we are at 231 families helped, 128 million closed, and we have another 8 to go. We plan to close out that year at 240 million, or 240 families helped and 138 million. So applause to my team, myself, and everybody. It's not a one-man show. Having my sister come in this year has been just life-altering for me, not only personally, but also professionally as well. So I am hands up and clapping for my team right now because they have really done a lot of hard work, and we've had 2 big moves. My sister moved and I moved all in the middle, and then the market just shifted like crazy on all of us. And like I said, I found myself not prepared as much as I normally am, and so I had to rebalance a little bit, but super happy. And that will tack into, I know, something we wanted to talk about. Out of that 140 million that we're going to close, or close to 140 million we're going to close this year, almost 60 million of that is non-QM. And
wow.
I shifted my business model about 3 years ago, and noticed that the non-QM was going to be really important. And over the, it took me 2 years to really understand the product, and I'm still understanding it. I'm not the end all, but everything that's coming out is just opened up, and we changed all our models to say, think yes. I mean, we live by that think yes model. I don't believe in no. If somebody tells me no, I need to understand the answer to why it's no. And then I'm going to go dig deeper and try to figure out an answer to make it a yes for them.
Well, I just want to take a pause and recognize that level of success. I mean, your top line production, I mean, I don't know where you're going to rank as mortgage professionals in America, but, I mean, it's going to be high. You are, that is some of the most, the highest success in the industry. So kudos. And then the amount of non-QM with that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's the most I've heard. So if there is someone in the mortgage coach community that's doing more QM, non-QM business than that, I want to know you, because we will be doing interviews around that. I think, as we at Mortgage Coach, our goal is to help local loan officers take it to the highest level. And whether you're doing customer direct, I mean, guys, for people who don't know Michele, she's always, been a local pro, but she's always had a national and consumer direct strategy. And so that it's called that hybrid model of referral based, consumer direct, and now non-QM. I think that is a model for the future. And again, I don't want to scare anyone. Like, if you don't do it, you're dead. But I would just say, if you want to make the next decade better than the last decade, it's a really smart strategy. So if you know someone doing a lot of non-QM business, I want to know them. Comment down below if you're that person. Let us know what you're doing, because I want to do a lot of interviews around that. Todd, anything you want to say before we just get into some Q&A on that?
Well, I think we should there's probably a couple people on the call who are like, what is non-QM? And maybe Michele can give some, kind of what it looks like from her perspective, and what are some of the loans that she's doing that fit into that box. I think that might be a good place to start.
Agreed. Michele.
Happy to. So non-QM, for anybody who doesn't know, non-QM is a non-qualified mortgage. So when the Thank God Act changed all of our lives, 10 years ago, the government came out and said, anything that's backed by Fannie, Freddie, or banking institution, you must be a qualified mortgage. And they came out with these very specifics. For a while there, Fannie and Freddie had to go back to, can't be over a 43% debt ratio, must be able to provide full documentation to qualify your mortgage. And there were very specifics that they had to do. So, a lot of the people, what happened was our box went from what we used to have, which was if you had a breath, we gave you a loan, right? We went to this like here and said, okay, all of you guys on this side and all of you guys on this side, we're not going to give you a loan. So as we started progressing through 2007, 8, 9, private money became huge again, because nobody could get a loan. I mean, people who have millions of dollars in assets but no job, they couldn't get a loan, and which was crazy, right? So Wall Street comes in and says, we're going to get these hedge funds back together, and we're going to come up with these other ways to come up with a qualified mortgage. So all it is a non-qualified mortgage is another way of showing the ability to repay. Super simple. So if you can't show the ability to repay on banks or paycheck stubs and W-2s and tax returns, what they came and said, okay, if you're self-employed and you've been self-employed for 2 years, it started with, we're going to look at 2 years of your bank statements, and we're going to go through every deposit, every expense, and we're going to give it to you. And what it's morphed into now is, some of the non-QM that I do, most of mine is bank statement jumbo loans. I've got people who either have only been self-employed been self-employed for 2 years, but their business is just starting to ramp up now. They've got millions of dollars of deposits coming in. They've got expenses going out, but they can't get a loan. So bank statements usually come in like 3 different levels. The first level is you take your bank statement deposits, you subtract 50% for expenses, and that's your income for the year, and you divide it by 12. That's your most aggressive bank statement loan. Then you go into different vacancy factors. So you have another bank statement loan that will say, if you have 4 employees, we'll let your expense factor go from 50% to 40%. Or if you only have 1 employee, we'll let your expense factor go from 50% to 20%. You still have the Luther Burbanks of the world that are still doing the old school bank statement, which is they're going to go through and they're going to look at positives and negatives, and then what's left is what your income is. I don't do any of those ones because not very many of my clients fit into that. But how I sell this one, because it is it's a higher interest rate. When I go to qualify a client and they tell me they have been turned down by a bank, and I said, send me your bank statements anyway, or send me your tax returns anyway. And then I have them send me their bank statements, either 12 or 24 months, depending on what kind of program I'm doing. One of the things that I like to do, because it usually stops any questions, I send them the workup on their income as a regular qualified mortgage. And then I send them the workup on the income as a bank statement. And I'll give you an example of one I just closed. It was a 2.1 purchase in Dana Point, and they were putting 20% down. Their income on tax returns that I could use was $7,450. Their income monthly that I could use on bank statements was $127,000. It was a difference of them getting the loan or not. So that's one type of non-QM loan. Does anybody have any questions on that one, the bank statement part?
Todd or Scott, any questions or comments?
No, I'm solid. I think that's super helpful because obviously there's a significant difference between 7,000 and 127,000.
Yeah.
Scott, any comments, questions?
No, good. Keep going. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So real quick before we keep going, I do want to remind everybody watching this is a mastermind. So if you have questions for Michele, check it out down below. I also want to shine a light on an interview that was posted in our group a few days ago by Jen Duplessis, which, Jen, if you are watching this, we need to get the whole crew back on the leadership and have you and Michele on a call together at the same time. So let us know when you could do that. But Scott, didn't you say that was a really good interview and folks should check it out?
Yeah, that's why I'm actually here. I actually saw that interview. It piqued my interest. And then I just turned it on. It was a podcast. And I was just listening to the background. And then Michele was mentioned, obviously, in there. I'm like, whoa. And then all of a sudden I connecting the dots like, hey, Michelle's going to be on Friday. I go, man, can I just be a fly on that wall? Can I see this and hear this? Because this is something I'll show you. I'm in escrow with a non-QM, just a little bit of spin on it. So very good podcast. Listen to that. I think it's on.
So check that out, guys. Questions down below. Michele, keep going. And then Scott, at some point, let's bring you in and talk about how you're using Mortgage Coach, how you're using Seller Buy Down to, sell, package, and market non-QM products. Back to you, Michele.
Okay, great. So the second one, and you guys, there's so many non-QM, but I'm just going to touch three today. The second one is an asset-based program. So that's going to be for your client who has equity in their home, who has a ton of money in the bank, but has no job. So they've got $2.1 million or $3 million sitting in assets. And all they want to do is either refinance the house, or they want to take cash out because they want to leverage. They don't want to take the money out of the stocks because those are performing. Most of these clients are performing at the 9 to 10% return on investment. So an interest rate of 5% is a much better use of their money than pulling it out of the market, right? So what we do is we convert the assets into income. And there's several different ways. My favorite is Nations Direct. Their whole team came from Bank of Cal. So they went over there and it's a really simple, it's total assets divided by 84. They look at a 6-month bank statement. So they take the whole average over the 6 months, divide by 84, that's your income. And that's phenomenal because a lot of the other people will do a 360 average or 180 average. So Freddie came out with they got aggressive on their asset-based program as well for people who are doing a primary residence and who are above 62 years of age. They'll do a 240-month average of the assets in their bank account. So remember, this is good for the Fannie product too. So if you have somebody who's not quite qualifying, let's say we're at a 55% debt ratio, but they're 60 years old and they're putting 20% or 30% down, you can convert some of their assets to income. There's so many different ways to do it. But that's one of my favorite ones because there are people who have so much money in the bank or that just don't want to pull their money out. And then the third one is probably the hottest ticket on the market right now, which is I'm going to get it wrong. I call it it's the DSCR program. It's basically for investors only. You go in, you buy a property, you buy an investment if it cash flows. So if your mortgage payment is with interest only $4,000 a month, including taxes and insurance, and your rent survey from the appraiser comes in at $4,000 a month, that's it. You don't need any more documentation. You need to show that that borrower has a history of managing rentals on some programs, and then you get them a loan with, as little as 20% down, which is phenomenal. I mean, and it's not private money loans. I mean, you can get anywhere from 5 to the 6% range. So depending on their credit score. So the number one thing about non-QM, that when I talk to people about non-QM, they go, it's too much work. That's the number one thing I said. It's too much work. It's too much headache. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot more work. But take the 2 years or take the year to get in there and learn your product. Sell what you know. Don't sell what you don't know. And if you don't know, I find when I talk to clients, I'll say, listen, I got to do a little bit more research on this because I don't quite know that you're going to fit in this box because you have 5 different companies that are all coming into one and the bank statements are spread out. I'm going to have somebody look at this. So give me 48 hours. Don't try to give them an answer right away and say yes, because then when you can't deliver, that gives them a bad feeling. And the last point is 90% of these non-QM lenders are going to look at your bank statements for you now. You don't have to do them. When I started, nobody did it. So I had to do the bank statement averages myself. Now they're doing their own bank statements. So you send them the bank statements and within 24 hours, they're going to send you an average of what you can use and bam, your income's done. You don't have to worry about that part of the loan anymore. It's so nice.
Wow.
That is so awesome.
That is awesome. Todd, did you have a question or a comment?
No, I'll let you go, and then I want to have Michele talk about how she kind of put it out there that she is the person who's helping the people who don't get QM loans, that she's the non-QM person now as well.
Well, I mean, that's where I was going to go. It's, like Mortgage Coach is all about giving you a competitive advantage. Obviously, the technology that we have is all about differentiating yourself through education and advice and transparency. So let's get into that sales strategies. How do you promote yourself, market yourself? I do want to keep it not light, but high level, because I want to do a full 1 hour interview on this. But, give us some high level, like how are you marketing it? How are you promoting yourself? I do want to know, how are you using Mortgage Coach with non-QM buyers? So let's go down that path. And then Scott, be ready to ask questions and, share some of your non-QM strategies.
Mm-hmm. So everybody's, I remember my background, if anybody doesn't know me, my background came from processing. And then I moved into origination, and in your triangle of sales, my base triangle is product knowledge. And that's what I pride myself on. And if I don't know it, I'm going to go dig and find it. I have an insatiable need to learn and understand, because I don't want to sell something I don't know. I can't stand being wrong. So I'm sure none of us like being wrong, but it really bothers me even more than probably most. All of my clients, or all of my realtors, and all of the clients I know, they always know. Some of them, when I first started, I had to do all those cruddy loans that nobody would do. And that's how I kind of got my name. Is she's not afraid of anything. She's a bulldog. She's going to go do anything. She will tell you, but she's honest. She's going to tell you if it's going to work or not. I make mistakes, you guys, just like anybody else. So don't think I am perfect, because I am far off that scale. But I own my mistakes, and some of the things that we talked about last year were, really defining who your client was. And when my sister came on board, for me, the Fannie and the Freddie stuff, I love it, but it's not where my brain engages as much. And so I needed something to keep me going. So about a year and a half ago, I started advertising on Sean Hannity. It was the right profile of clients that I wanted. I wanted high net worth clients, self-employed mostly. And I knew that those people were going to have the biggest challenges. And one of my ads, and I can post it to the website, I'm happy to share it. It just says, tired of getting told no by the big banks. Let Michele Town tell you yes, period. So that is how I really got my name out. And then I just kind of morphed into, this is what I love and this is what I do and I have a passion for it. And anybody who's sitting on here, you know, when we have a passion for something, we light up. We're very gregarious. We engage so much. So find that passion of what you are. If it's Fannie and Freddie, love it, live it, and do it. If it's VA, love it, live it, and do it. Mine happens to be QM. I love it, I live it, and I do it. My own personal loan that I did here in Colorado was a non-QM loan.
So guys, marketing team who listen to that, we got to have a little quote. Michele Town, love it, live it, do it. And then I love that, you know, if big banks say no, Michele Town says yes. So yes, Michele, please share that in the group. We'd love to see it. That's awesome marketing. So that's pretty cool. Todd, any questions around that for Michele or any other questions you have for her right now?
Well, I'm posting it into the group, so you caught me multitasking there. You know, I love that you shared that you've been advertising it on Sean Hannity. I love that you shared that piece. How have you been getting out there in the realtor community with it as well, or just all consumer direct?
So it's out there in the realtor community. The nice thing about having, you know, the Hannity is not for everybody, you guys, because it's a very expensive venture. But it was something that I knew I needed to do. So I shifted all my marketing money last year into Hannity because I needed to get out more on this non-QM product. And believe it or not, almost all of my realtors heard it too. So they know it. And then somebody will go, it's just like when I first started branding myself, I went into all the local magazines and I just took out a really small ad just so that, and I didn't get a lot of business from that, but I did. Because when somebody said, oh, I'm going to refer my friend Michele to you, they go, how come I know that name? And they either read it in a magazine or they've heard it on Sean Hannity. So I don't know what that's called because I'm not a marketing expert, but I'm present in the mind of people right now. So, but my realtors know too. I mean, the ones that I've worked with, they'll tell me, I'll sit down and when I do my one-on-ones with the realtors, I'll ask them what loans didn't work last year for you. And, you know, which ones fell apart that, you know, I wasn't involved in. And they'll tell me and I'll say, hey, did you know you could do this? And I also stay very in front of my realtors. We use Outbound Engine to stay in front of all of our clients. And we do marketing pieces. I have fallen behind the wayside on my normal routines, but every week a rate sheet used to go out and it would also spotlight one of those non-QMs. So any realtor I've ever touched in my life, and that means listing side, buying side, talk to, they're in my database. And unless they opt out, they're going to get hey, this was our win for the week. And we really post our wins as the non-QM wins.
Awesome. So hope everybody got that. You know, how is she promoting herself as realtors? She's promoting some wins. If you wouldn't mind sharing an example of how you're promoting stories and strategies. Michele, did you by any chance, and I know you probably didn't see my interview with Donald Miller, the author of StoryBrand, or are you familiar with StoryBrand?
No, I don't know if it's Donald Miller, but I did a storyboard. Is that the same thing?
No. So here, I will forward it to you, knowing that you're back in at the leadership table here. You know, I'll forward it to you, check it out. But I think you and your marketing team is gonna really like it. And we'll talk about that when we do our full interview. Hey, quick question that came to mind. What is your split of, you know, consumer direct, self-gen business versus realtor referrals? You know, what is your basic referral source metrics right now?
So I always live in 4 quadrants in my marketing, so that if the market dies, I don't die with it, right? So I have my past clients, which are probably this year, because of the refinance boom, I would say probably a good 60% of my market, which is pretty huge. It's not normally that big because we've been in a different kind of rate shift. I would say 30% comes from Hannity. The other, so that's 60, 30, 90. I'm going to go down on that. I'm going to say 50% repeat clients, 30% Hannity. Another 15% is realtors because we've had California's been kind of in a weird shift this year. And then the other 5 or 10% right now we're building up is Colorado. So consumer direct, I would say 90% consumer direct. 10%. Is that right? Am I doing it right? Is that including referrals?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think I got the gist of it. Let's get the exactly when we do the full top producer interview, if you could come with, kind of some clarity on that. But that, I think that gives us, at least my takeaway is you killed it with your past clients, and that has been your biggest, 2019 win. And then you have increased your spend, and you are killing it with consumer direct. And then you've got your California business, and then you're building out a Colorado realtor referral platform too.
And just so you guys know, I my system is Jungo, and I track. I can tell you, I had 161 referrals from realtors this year. I had 120 referrals from Hannity. I had in the last 2 months, I've had 57 client referrals. I've had one of my big bear things, I've had 39 referrals in the last 6 months on that one. So I track everything. It's quantify, right? And be able to understand where everything's going. And that is how I use that, and I tease my realtors about that, because I'm like, depending on where you come in this position is going to determine the amount of marketing dollars we're going to be able to work together with next year.
Love it. And remind everybody, Jungo has an awesome integration with Mortgage Coach. Mm-hmm. And that brings a question I have for you. How is Mortgage Coach helping you with non-QM products? What's one or two Mortgage Coach strategies?
Okay, so my favorite Mortgage Coach strategy is the same one where I do the income. I send them a mortgage coach with what they qualify with traditionally and what they qualify with bank statements. And I just put it side by side. And I do my video, and I just show them, here's what you qualify for. So when they see that blaring, like, oh my gosh, you mean I qualify for 300 or I qualify for $1 million, when they're looking in that million mark. And then also on the non-QM, I will give them, the different options of whether or not, depending, again, my questionnaire when I talk to a client, the intake call, the first 10, 15 minutes is just a questionnaire I fill out, because it helps me identify. And one of the things I learned from one of our groups with Cindy was, my first question is why? Why are you doing this? Why is buying a house this year so important to you? Because I want to engage that personal side of them, and it opens up a door. So if you're not asking the why with the client, because you might find out that their mother's moving in with them, or they have another kid coming around or something. So figure out how to engage that personal side and understand them a little bit. And then I build my mortgage coach based on what my model tells me that they're looking for. Are they a saver? If they're a saver, I'm not even going to show them, an interest only or an ARM, because they're conservative. I'm not going to do it. I know that profile and I know what it is. But I do always ask the question, how long are you going to be in this house? Let's look at it. Do you realize that the average, loan right now is 7 years? So if we're struggling a little bit, or if they're moving, we'll throw in interest only, or we'll throw in 30-year fixed. So I'm sure everybody's doing like this, but I'm real particular on identifying the type of client I have, and then I build my mortgage coach around that.
Got it. So guys, I want you to catch this. She's showing the two difference, and here's the deal. While the rate on the non-QM is more, because they're qualifying for more home, if it is a family that believes that their home is going to appreciate, the wealth accumulation, so you start looking at that cost over time, over 5 years, 10 years, they're going to build significantly more wealth. But at the end of the day, it's not to sell them on a product, it's to give them transparency and clarity so they can make a decision. But could you share one of your TCAs with us?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so guys, we'll have a link to that down below. Scott Nicholson, anything you want to ask Michele, play off of Michele, or an idea or a strategy you want to share?
Sorry, I had technical difficulties, so I'm back. I got kicked out. Hey, so I missed it, but I do.
Well, time out. I want you to hear, I'll net it out. Michele, her number one way of using Mortgage Coach for non-QM is to put, program A, a conventional loan, what they qualify for, which is less than the non-QM. And then program 2 is, hey, you qualify for more so you can buy more home. Right. And And then while the rate and payment is different and the cost is more for the non-QM, the wealth accumulation for the non-QM is higher because they qualify for more home. So your turn.
Yeah, and so I think the non-QM has been in my radar for some time. I'm not in. I'll probably never get to Michele. And that's why I'm in this call. I saw Jen's post. I saw the interview. Michele was in there, and then I'm connected. I'm riding shotgun in the mortgage coach. But now I'm going to show you. I want to show you my screen. So I had referred a client. My agent, one of my better agents, referred me a client. Was on one of her listings, and then we got into it. And same thing Michelle's talking about. We got a business owner that's basically just throwing everything into the business, can't show much. I think I was north of maybe 4,000 of qualified income. I immediately pivot into the bank loan. And then my mind just, as Michele says, if you're going to get in, get excited, know your stuff, get educated, and be that king or queen of that space, right? And so one of the things that obviously I'm known for is a seller buy-down. That's why I'm attracted to non-QM heavily moving forward, is because of that. And so what I'll do is I'll share my screen. I'm going to show you Steve and Wendy's transaction. Where do I share?
Yeah, there's a little box on Zoom with a green arrow pointing up right in the middle. But boom, we see your screen, Scott.
Okay, so here's Dave and Wendy. So this is where we came, we had to pivot out because we only had 4,000, and this is the actual presentation, and I'll share this link also in the group I did for them. Let me see if I can expand it up for you. So the first column was just the bank statement loan. I'm preparing this. This is a condo. It's a second home for them. They're carrying a bunch of debt on their first trust deed, on their first loan, plus they're carrying their kid's mortgage. And so one of the things I wanted to point out before I dive into this is in the non-QM, Michele said it there, is you just don't get to make the income up, right? So it's not, you have to have the ability to repay. That means ratios are going to be a factor here. And so as I said there, and I'll say it again, we're carrying already a large note in his first trust deed and his kid's note, and then I got to bring in this $640,000 note. And so I structured it this way. And so I loaded up just traditional non-QM bank statement loan, 800, 640, 6 1/4, 48, 176 cash to close. Great. There's your vitals. My solution to David was the seller buy down. And so I immediately pivoted in. I went to the agent he wanted to write it at 8. And I go, 1, do we have comps at 820? That's my first question. Yes, we do, Scott. Great. Can I get 20 out of this transaction for a client? Absolutely. So I structured column 2, full and fair price at 820, loan amount 656, 4 7/8 on a 30-year fix. Let me pause there for a second. Let me go back to the first row. That 6 1/4 bank statement also carries a 3/4 point discount. So not only is it high, it's expensive. So let me go back to column 2. Negotiated 820, got 20, structured it correctly in the purchase contract. Now I have the terms I'm presenting in here, 820, 656, 4 7/8. Look at my payment. I'm now down at $43.95. Guess where my ratios went? A decline to an approval. That's a 9% drop in ratios now. Now my cash to close is actually less, and I'm even financing more, because that's that 3/4 of discount point went away. And then the third column, what really got them was I took the third column, copied the first column, and price reduced it all the way, because that's how consumers and agents think a lot, is like, we'll just reduce price. Or the buyer's thought process is, well, I'll try to just steal this property now that's sitting there. I actually reduced price all the way down to $722, have the same financial benefits. So I gave him $98,000 more house on a non-QM loan, and I saved him money from doing it traditional way. And that's how I'm moving forward into the market with that.
So mortgage coach community, I want to make sure you connected the value of showing these strategies with mortgage coach is you're taking concepts that can be confusing and you're putting it all on a sheet of paper for someone, and you're helping them with clarity. And so what are you really doing? You're bringing more people into the market. I mean, he took a decline into an approval, home accessibility, and he was able to communicate that more effectively to both the family and the realtor. Michele Town, any questions or comments on this case?
I am so excited. Scott, that is a phenomenal thing. I hope you send this out to every one of your agents so they understand it, because looking at that, I mean, guys, look at that, 6.25%. The first thing clients do, if you have a rate sensitive person, is go, oh God, that's horrible. What do you hear? That's, highway robbery. I've heard all kinds of adjectives to be used to describe a rating of sixes. And he just took it to 4.875, saved the client $453 per month, and looks like $2,000 less to close. Yep. So yeah, they're going to pay 1.25% higher on their property taxes. That's it. That's all they're paying higher on. Yep. And then what was brilliant to me is to do that, because especially if you're an engineer, the first thing that goes, if we can get 20,000 off, why don't we just take it off the purchase price and then show it to them saying, yeah, let's do that. But look what happened, so I love that. That is I'm really excited because I've got this. I've got you on my list. You're on my radar now, Scott.
hey guys, we're going to do a whole mastermind, whether we do it next Friday, around, creative strategies using non-QM products and Mortgage Coach to get more people into escrow, and bring more value to your realtors so that they see you as, hey, when big banks are saying no, Mortgage Coach is saying yes. And so one ask for everybody, if you are doing some creative TCAs around non-QM, share those down below. I'm going to get a post so we get a lot of case studies and examples of how our community is doing this. Scott, before we move off this topic, real quick, just give people a quick high level on how this could also be used with FSBOs. Scott and I were riffing recently, and I've had a number of people talk about, for sale by owners. There's a lot of them, and how you could bring the seller buy down strategy and Mortgage Coach to win seller buy down business, FSBO business. Real quick on that, Scott. And maybe stop sharing your screen so we can just see faces.
All right. Got it. So, well, before I answer that question and before we leave that agent transaction, I've already got referred into, she owns like this farm area, this big agent. And guess what now? I'm now brought in for her 1.2 listing using the seller buy down for a retired couple that's very payment sensitive. Their goal was $6,300 a month. I'm now down to I think it was $4,800 a month on that listing. So now we went for really can't afford it, so now that just opens the door, right? So now we're starting to move inventory. There's real value back to your agents, and not only that, to the consumer. And so now going back to yours, Dave, absolutely. That's been a big thing on my radar moving forward too, is FSBOs. So as the iBuyers and that whole platform moves into our market and really starts to commoditize, especially like the buyer's agent and the listing agents, and and the consumer thinks that they're more empowered. Hey, I can really do this on my own. And so those FSBO guys are doing it for two reasons. Number one, there's a small equity position left in the property, or number two, they're super butt cheap and they just want to do it on their own. So let's help them. So instead of giving 6% right out to the real estate market, hopefully there's no agents listening, why not go after the FSBO, right? And the seller buy down community that I've built was built really for that FSBO market too, because in there's that whole call text program right now. And so now we're going to go after those for sale by owners, do a presentation. Here's how we can market your house. So all the sign writers, all of the signs in the community that we're driving traffic to now come to me. I deliver TCA reports on that. And guess what? If they want to buy it, great. If they want to negotiate on it, I usually have 1.5% to 2% in my back pocket to implement a seller buy down. Now it moves more potential clients up in buying power, just like I showed you that 722, in that third row, 722 up to 820. That's the same format. So now I got Now, not only that, on the FSBO, I'm sitting the seller down and saying, okay, let's look at your up leg transaction. Because do we have an issue with ratios, right? Tax returns, or do you have an issue, right, with equity position? Because I can easily pivot into a move up analysis for the sell by owner of working all the numbers, do a seller buy down for less money for the same payment, and or get him the house he needs for the ratios that fit his budget.
Love it. So mortgage coach community, we're going to be talking about that too, because in Scott's sellerbuydown.com community, he is seeing more and more mortgage coach professionals just kill it with FSBOs. So there's just a whole way to, put a program and a strategy around that. So Michele, any last comments or questions before we pivot the topic to accountability with Todd Bookspan? Anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell Scott, congratulations. I mean, so all of you who've ever done builder business, this is exactly what he's just created. So when your builder goes in and everybody has to pre-qual with a builder, back in 2000, if you are old dinosaurs like me, in 2005 and 6, there was lotteries to try to get these houses. People were lined up out the door and you'd have to fill out an application. And what they didn't do back then is they didn't capture all the people and, keep moving them. So what Scott's done is now, not only for his realtor, has he created this incredible gold mine of referral sources, but for himself, he's also created this incredible gold mine. I mean, you're a smart man, Scott. Congratulations. Congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So hey, you two make sure you talk afterwards, because Michele, you would be a natural to be part of Scott's community, and I don't think he has sold out Denver yet. So make sure you guys connect after the call.
Well, hold on a second. Let me see how I'm going to frame this.
So Todd, it looks like you're going to get about 15 minutes at the end. Just set the expectation.
What? 1 minute. Just do this.
Okay, you got 1 minute, buddy.
Pick up your phones. Go ahead and pick up your phones and text 949-401-6141.
Hang on, I'm going to put that in that. Hey, say that one more time. 949-401-6141.
6141.
Okay, guys. So by the way, I'm putting this in chat. So text. Hey, text what?
Non-QM, NQM. Text those 3 letters for non-QM.
Just NQM? Just NQM.
Yep.
Got it. Yep. NQM 2.
949. So great. 401. Yep, there you go. So guess what? Those who are texting right now, you are first, and you are in line for January's rollout of an entire national non-QM platform built for the loan officer in the city. So think of the LO who's listening to Michele right now, right? That loves the seller buy down and the non-QM, that wants to dominate. I literally have a platform coming next month, part of a large rollout, that the LO can sign up and dominate non-QM, let's say in Yorba Linda. I know I'm personally rolling it out for myself. I'm signing up, taking on Yorba Linda non-QM, fully plug and play site that, as a network and a community across the country, all of this will be Google search, everything. All the consumers can come to our sites, read, educate, have dialogue, forms, lead gen, everything pushed to that. That's rolling out, and it's like $49 a month.
Cool. So guys, you got it. I put it in chat down below. Let's pivot. So Todd, anything you want to say before we pivot into the 5 levels of accountability, which was a topic for today?
Well, I mean, I'd love to know from Michele if there's just any pitfalls that you would, you already said study it for a year, but are there any just pitfalls that someone who's jumping in on QM should be looking out for so they don't, kind of bite themselves in the butt on their first one?
Oh, yes. Do not overpromise and do not make a decision on the phone call. If somebody is pressing you to give them a rate right then and there, tell them you can't do that. Just tell them that this product doesn't allow that, if you quoted a rate right now, it might be too high because there are so many different non-QM lenders, and I won't even give them a quote until they've sent me their paperwork, because I don't know which investor they're going to fit in. Where I have a phenomenal, somebody was asking me what my non-QM favorites are. I use NationStar, NewFi, LoanStream, and Impact. Those are probably my top 4. Don't get spread out by the promises of something new. I believe me, learn from my mistakes. I have, somebody's promised me they could do something, and then, 3 weeks into the transaction, they can't do it. So vet it out first, vet your client out first, and give them a range if you want to, of, hey, the interest rates are going to be anywhere from 5% to 7%, depending on your credit, depending on the type of business you are, depending on the type of income we're coming in with, depending on where your down payment's coming from and how much reserves you have. And when people try to, especially on the non-QM, where they try to wheedle me down on a rate, the first thing I ask them, especially if it's a refinance, I go, what's your rate right now? And if they say my rate's 3.75, I'll say, listen, non-QM's not going to work for you. And I'm super honest. But if it's somebody who is, because you can look at what Scott did, you can take that 6.25 rate and get it down to 4.875. So there's ways to do it. I just tell them there's 20 to 30 things I have to look at before I can give you an honest quote. And I tell people I'm not that kind of girl. It's not who I am. I'm not going to give you a quote and be wrong. I would encourage and challenge everybody on these non-QM loans to be a little bit more. You have to wag the tail on this one. The client cannot wag the tail. You have to wag it.
Leadership, guys. We talk about that. Advice and leadership, and obviously, Michele, you're killing it. Let's, after this call, Michele, let's get you on the calendar for a 1 hour Tuesday full interview on what's happening and how you're doing it. Sound good?
Perfect.
All right, well, stay on the call. We got 10 more minutes. Todd and I have been having a discussion. I mean, we talk about accountability. We've done calls about accountability, but knowing that we're coming into not just a new year, but a new decade. We're ending a decade in a year. We're starting a decade in a year. There's a lot of confusion. What is accountability? And Todd and I were riffing after the call with, I think it was with Bill Hart. And we were, we were just talking about Win by Noon. We were talking about Mortgage Coach. I love accountability when it comes to rolling out Mortgage Coach. We find that the companies that are the most successful are the companies that, they've got systems, processes, and people in place to do that, to hold people accountable and to implement and execute. And one of the reasons I advocate Win by Noon so much is it's like a system and a framework that helps you organize, like plan, which all top producers plan. All top producers time block. They make sure they get their top priorities in, Win by Noon. And then they record, they like, what's the lead source? How many phone calls did I have? How many conversations? How many TCAs? They're measuring, they're tracking. So we were talking about accountability and just how important it is to make change. And so Todd, why don't you share, as Mr. Win by Noon, let's start the conversation. We don't have time to have the full conversation you and I wanted to have, but let's start it with the Mortgage Coach community. So rock it out.
So I'll throw in, a couple things. First off, accountability is a thing that everyone needs, but nobody wants. So I know that, right? I mean, I know that Dave says he loves accountability, but I know that the rest of us really don't.
No, I don't. Now, time out. I mean, I love it for other people.
There you go. I appreciate that. And for me, when I hired Bill Hart in 2003 as my first business coach, the reason I hired him was for accountability. And I didn't want it, but I knew I needed it. And so first off, I'm a big believer that nobody actually wants it, but everyone needs it. Most of us are not intrinsically motivated to actually hold ourselves accountable. And so a third party to hold you accountable is really critical. And sometimes it's just a reminder that you need. And so Dave and I were, as he said, we're kind of riffing on these different levels of accountability because I've been running inside of Win by Noon free accountability challenges. And it's funny, we just ran one for Q4 and, like most things, you start running out of steam towards the end. And so I decided for 2020, I was going to run 4-week challenges. So each one will be a sprint, you get some prizes and have some fun in there. But, and I am running a webinar today to launch it. But if you're, Dave's announced it before, if you just jump over to the Win by Noon user mastermind group, I'll be putting stuff in there over the next couple of weeks so we can get people jumping in January. And if you're too scared for January, of course, we'll run it again in February and then beyond. But Dave and I were looking at like, what's the highest possible level of accountability, right? We were trying to figure out what is that, what does that look like? And so, Dave and I, this one was a hard one. So we said we would start with the hardest level of accountability today and then work our way to easier because, me and Win by Noon, we're like the easy level. And those of you who are going out and hiring coaches, right, one-on-one coaches or small group coaching, right, you're hiring a different level. And so we decided that level 5 was like your credit card's on file for penalties and, they're looking at your tax returns and your pay stubs and really making sure that you're actually doing what it is that you said you're doing. And Dave and I thought it sounded kind of harsh, but David was like pushing me on it. Yeah, like we need to hold people super accountable. So what do you think about the penalty?
Well, time out. So first of all, it's not that it's harsh. I just, there are different levels of accountability. And I'm just going to, for sake of contrast, like level 1 accountability could be as simple as just reminding someone to do something. It could be, Win by Noon, Todd is thinking about, hey, should I have like a mobile club that people can opt into that just gives them a reminder to Win by Noon, and that's like level 1. And then, what is the most accountability? Yeah, the most accountability is where there is verification and there are penalties. That is level 5. And so it's not that, by the way, it's not that I like it. It's not that I'm advocating for it. It's not that if you're a manager on this, I'm not suggesting that you would enforce something like that on your team. I'm just saying it is a thing. There are coaches that do it. So,
well, and I'll tell you, it helps, right? I was in a kind of a challenge, we'll call it, with there was 4 loan officers who started, or maybe 5, and it ended up being me and the number 1 producer in Arizona at the time. And we had to make a certain number of phone calls to kind of warm realtor prospects and a certain number of calls to cold realtor prospects. And this is back in the day where, I could barely scrape 2 pennies together in the mortgage business. And, this other guy was crushing it. He was number 1. And I had to write a check that was held by the coach that was made out to the other loan officer. And then he had a check from the other loan officer made out to me. And if we didn't make our calls, then that check got mailed. I've seen people do it before where it's a blank check and the person's going to write it to their favorite charity or sometimes your least favorite charity. Maybe the political opponent that you hate that's out there. Someone might send your check there. So there's no doubt that financial accountability is the highest level and it works because I couldn't afford to lose it. And I will say, Dave, I do like where the verification comes in because I always wondered, hey, did that guy actually make those calls? Should I have gotten his check and made that money? And, I'm okay that I didn't. Level 4, we said, was a weekly call with your professional coach, right? And we know there's so many great coaches that are part of this community. There's so many great coaching organizations that are out there. And like I said, when Bill was my coach, that's why I hired him. So he wasn't, there was no fines. And there was no that high level of accountability. And he was monitoring my results, right? We were definitely talking through the results side of things that I was recording, leads and applications and closed loans at that time. But, there's no doubt that having a one-on-one coach is going to make you more accountable for sure. And so any thoughts on that one, Dave?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think anytime that you're meeting with someone and when that someone's like job, they're getting paid to hold you accountable. It's level 4 accountability. And some people that might be level 5, that might be level 10. I think this is a personal thing. It's not like Todd and I are saying, hey, we've invented this standard. I think every human being has a standard, but people that subscribe to the mortgage coach community, people that come to these calls, you guys are coming here to be better. You're coming here to take whatever level of success that you have to the next level. And a lot of the ways we do that are through ideas and mortgage coach, but it's the end of the decade and we want to talk about accountability. So level 4 is a professional coach. Level 3 might be a volunteer coach. It could be a peer. You're not, one, if it's not someone that does this for a living, they're not going to have the same expertise. If they're a volunteer and they're not getting paid for it, they're probably not going to be, it's like, hey, I'll fit you in when my life fits you in. So, level 3 is that volunteer. Anything you want to add to that one, Todd?
Well, I mean, obviously the difference between level 3 and 4 is when you're writing a check to somebody, guess what? You're going to show up and you're going to make sure you get your homework in at a higher level. So that's part of the reason is the buy-in, right? Oftentimes, free stuff is less followed because there's not that financial penalty in it. And there's some studies out there, those of you who are on my business planning webinar I did over the last couple of weeks, the people who actually sent their information, their goals and the written steps to somebody else were 64% likely to achieve those goals. But then someone who actually had weekly accountability with them where they actually reported in were 76% likely to hit their goals. And so we know it works. I mean, there's studies that prove it over and over again. That was Dr. Gail Matthews who had done that research. So I think the higher that you can put the temperature up underneath the backside, like the more pressure you put on yourself, then the more likely you are to perform. And so, I definitely hope I can get a bunch of you guys to jump in on the Win by Noon challenge, especially since it's free. Did I say that part?
Yeah.
I can't remember if I said that free part.
You did. And then level 2. Yeah, level 2. And then I'm going to pull up Win by Noon page. But level 2 is where you're just documenting a plan and then you're saying something publicly. That may be you're putting it on social media and you're just declaring, I'm going to do X to the world. Could be that you're telling friends and family. I know when we train people on how to adopt Mortgage Coach, we always recommend that part of the accountability is your referral partners. That you say, hey, to your team and the people know you, we're going to make Mortgage Coach a standard. And then you have a meeting and you show it to your realtors. And you're like, hey, this is the consumer experience that I'm going to start providing. And that's part of how we teach loan officers to adopt Mortgage Coach. Like, declare it, say it out loud. Level 2. So I'm going to share on my screen really quick the Win by Noon Facebook group. If you could just confirm that you can see it, or at least I'm trying to. Todd, for some reason, I am not able to share my desktop at the moment. Any chance you can share it?
Let me see if I can jump in there real quick because I don't think I'm in Facebook, but I can get on there really fast.
All right. Well, here's what we want you to do, guys. I want you to go to Facebook either now or after this call and type in Win by Noon. I think it's called User Mastermind.
Group. Well, and to sign up for the info and the challenge in there, and I'll continue. You can also go to winbynoon.com/calendar, and that's got it's going to be short. It's going to be a 10, maybe 15-minute kickoff call today to get people ready to rock and roll before the holiday. So that way, when everyone hits the ground on January 2nd or January 6th, whenever you're going to be back in the office, that you're already going. And then you've got somewhere to actually share those numbers, whether it's going to be privately with me one-on-one. I have a lot of people who just mail theirs in. And then we also have the public place where you can actually share it publicly for the ultimate accountability.
So guys, we'll put links down below. If you're watching the recording, there'll be a link in comments down below to get here. Make sure you sign up for that. And then, the message is, if you are using Win by Noon, you're at least level 1, level 2 accountability. And then again, if you have a professional coach, you're at level 4. Todd is thinking about prioritizing and creating a mobile club that would, you just opt into it and it would be a reminder, hey, did you win by noon today? If you like that and you want Todd to do that, comment down below, say, hey, that's a great idea. I would subscribe. He's trying to prioritize whether or not that's something he should have his team do. So let us know. Do you want Win by Noon to provide text reminders to you? Would that be useful to you? So we've already got one person saying yes. Michele, anything you want to add on this accountability topic? And you're a Win by Noon user. Do you like that idea if we gave you a text reminder?
Yeah, I do, our whole group started from Darren Hardy, right? And I do Darren Hardy's thing every morning. So doing something else with Todd is good as well. I mean, Win by Noon is, if you don't have an accountability partner, then be accountable to yourself. But I can tell you from somebody, and I'm 52 years old, I am not really accountable to myself very well. Unless it's something like, like I try to go ride and I still don't do that. So not only I'm accountable to my team, but I'm accountable to my coach. I'm probably a level 4 on that, or a level 5, because I need that constant reminder and I need the engagement to keep me motivated and moving forward sometimes. Sometimes, this business is not easy, you guys. There are days where I'm sure I'm not the only one that's going to say this. Maybe I'm the only one that's going to say it publicly, but I want to quit sometimes. Like, just quit because I can't handle it anymore. It is a very taking job. People take from us. And sometimes everything we do is wrong. And you're just like, and all we're doing is giving information, but we're giving information to people that don't know the business. So when you tell somebody they've got to have a 6% interest rate and they tell you that you're a crook or that you're, you know, that's highway robbery, you know, it deflates you. And I'm not immune to it. And there are days where I just can't take it anymore and I want to quit. So I have an accountability partner or somebody I can talk to that just let it blow out and get the steam out of me so it doesn't take away that positive energy and, you know, fill myself up with that negative energy.
Awesome. So guys, we are at the top of the hour. Scott Nicholson, thank you for coming in and sharing some of your ideas and strategies. They were awesome. Reminder to anyone watching this, you know, he gave you guys a free text that you can send and get his non-QM playbook for January. Check it out. Be on the lookout for when Michele and I confirm a time for a top producer interview with, you know, a lot of content and topics on how to win big with non-QM in 2020. You know, guys, if you have not already become an active member of Todd Bookspin's Win by Noon private Facebook group, get on it. Link down below. Todd, any last words as we wrap this up?
You know, just have a great weekend. Enjoy Star Wars, and always great being here. Love seeing you, Scott. Michele, welcome back. It's so good to have you here, and super appreciate your leadership, Dave.
All right, thanks, guys. Make sure you like it. Comments help drive value for Mortgage Coach wherever you see us on social media. Comments, likes. Have a great weekend, everybody. This call is a wrap. Later.